Okay, tonight's video is going to be about making chicken stock, chicken broth, whichever you want to say. It's not going to be bone broth. We're not going to be simmering it for hours and hours, but we are going to at least be simmering it for 2 to 4 hours. And then the chicken stock that we gain from that is what we're going to make our soup with. We're not only going to make one batch of soup, we're going to make two, because I'm going to make 2 batches of the chicken stock and or chicken broth. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, we have everything in the stock pot. I've got 12 cups of water. I will have the measurements for the stock pot in the show notes. 4 or 5 carrots for flavoring. You want to flavor your stock with the carrots, onions, celery, parsley. My husband does not like parsley, so we don't use that. Like I said, when it comes time to actually use the stock for soup, I will soften some celery and add that in his soup. But he doesn't like parsley, so I put in 4 carrots, onions. You do not have to peel. You can just chop them up with the skins on. We're going to sieve it at the end. A couple of bay leaves, salt and pepper. Obviously, when you have your stock or when you make your soup, you will salt and pepper to taste. Then I'm going to add some turmeric. I like to add that. Turmeric takes down inflammation. That's the whole reason that I myself like to eat chicken stock and homemade chicken soup. And it gives it a nice golden color. And then you want to gently simmer for several hours. Usually I gently simmer for about 4 or 5 hours. And then once my gentle simmering for 4 or 5 hours is over, I'll show you what I do next. Okay, this is my chicken stock about 2.5 hours into cooking. It's simmering on low. The reason you want that is that you don't want your soup stock to be cloudy. And apparently if you're sitting there boiling it, I think it is because a lot of the fat will then render down to something that clouds your liquid. I'll have that in the show notes if that's not the case, if it's something altogether different and you're interested in why it would make the soup cloudy if you actually boiled it. You just want to simmer it. Now if you sat with this, the bones, because the bones have been roasted, so that makes good bone broth. If you sat with this for hours and hours, of course I don't know that the carrots and the onions would interrupt the perfection of bone broth, but if I did this for 8 to 10 to 12 or more hours, then I would have actually bone broth. But in fact what I'm making is something that's going to be simmered for 4 to 6 hours. And then I'm going to cool it, put it into plastic containers, and then take each container out and make soup, homemade chicken noodle soup at a later date, and the later date being somewhere in the next 2 weeks. And there's what my liquid gold looks like. Look at that beautiful chicken stock. Can't buy anything like this in the store. This doesn't have any preservatives, additives, flavoroids, nothing. Just good old-fashioned. I have 2 organic chickens in there, 4 carrots. Mine are organic, yours don't need to be. 1 whole onion, some turmeric, salt and pepper, and 12 cups of water, and I'm simmering on low. And you get this beautiful, gold, beautiful liquid. And there is our delicious broth. So it was 12 cups of water was added, and I low simmered it for 4.5 hours. Then I put it through a strainer to strain away the onion and the bay leaf and the bones and such. And so what will happen here is I will cool it just enough for the steam that's coming off the top for it to stop, because I don't want to put it in the refrigerator with full hot steam coming off the top. So usually that takes 15 to 20 minutes for that effect to stop. And then I'm going to take these and put them on the bottom shelf, make sure that anything that's dairy, milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, and we don't keep meat in the refrigerator and that except for lunch meat. Make sure anything like that is far enough away from it that it's not touching it and not warming it up. And then I cool this all the way down. And what you're going to notice is that when I take it out, there's going to be a layer of gelatinous liquid on top. And that's what you are looking for. The more, the better. I mean, if you have a stomach ache, stomach issues, gut issues, digestive issues, broth, even just simple 4 to 5 hour low simmered broth or stock, is a healer. I mean, it makes you feel better. It's just like when you're sick and that, and Mom makes chicken noodle soup, chicken stock, chicken broth, whatever. I interchange those words a lot because growing up we called it chicken broth. So, and it was made from a whole roasted chicken. Nowadays they, or at some point in time, they decided to say chicken stock was something that was low simmered for 4 to 5 hours, and chicken broth was something that is low simmered for beyond 4 hours, and then up to maybe 2 or 3 days possibly. So then the words were kind of not interchangeable anymore for a lot of people, but they still are for me. When I say chicken stock or chicken broth, I'm not talking about bone broth. So either way though, when you drink this, water it down a little bit, because this is like concentrate, so you want to water it down just a little bit if you put it in a glass. And yeah, you'll feel better. Take some of this out, put, maybe a cup of this or so into a glass, and put a half a cup of water. If you don't want to drink it straight, which is, like I said, it's pretty strong concentrate, make sure that it's lukewarm to warm, and drink it down. Helps with tummy aches, tummy disturbances after you've been sick, something to get you strong and get you in the mood to eat again, rev your appetite up. And then once I make the soup, I'll make a video of that. And that's good for anything. It's good for a meal, good for when you're coming down with a cold, good for when you have a cold, stomach flu, and good for when you're recovering from any of that stuff. There's nothing better than chicken soup, chicken stock, chicken broth. So there it is. Took 4.5 hours. My next video will be making homemade chicken noodle soup.